Bienvenue, Ani, welcome. This is going to be our last character before we start to make some decisions about the world and the story. Up to this point, I have kept myself from thinking too much about those details, but I will admit, I did take some time after looking at this next picture to think about what kind of character it would make sense to add. The stone looked like a newsboy cap to me, so I had the hat nailed down pretty quickly. Who would be wearing it was another matter entirely. I knew that I wanted to add another character to Zinnia and Moss's circle, and first thought about some kind of bird friend for Moss. The water coming out of the sprinkler head looked like it could be wings moving quickly, like a hummingbird's. And I was also reminded of Cornelius's bumblebee steed from Thumbelina. But after rolling that idea around in my head for a day or so, I decided I wanted a character that would connect Moss to the other kids. I had thought that his involvement in their adventure would be that he was their babysitter, but I had already decided that he had a different part time job. So then I thought, what if he has a younger sibling that's in the same age range as Button and Bobbin and is friends with them? Then it would make sense that sometimes Moss has to look after his sibling and ends up going to the park with the kids, etc. All that to say, it's time to meet Moss's younger brother. This is a speed draw, and the lines will flicker. When I settled on the idea of a younger brother, I started thinking about what kind of character would best fit into the friend group. We already have the adventurous but also timid Button, and the confident and prepared Bobbin, so I wanted someone different. Because the water spray made me think of fast moving wings, I knew that the character was going to be full of energy, and decided to build on that idea. Energetic plus forced fairy quickly turned into rambunctious outdoorsy kid. The kind of kid that is usually portrayed with a frog in their pocket. Now, I couldn't include the frog, of course, since as a fairy he's probably the same size, if not smaller, than a frog. But there was one element from the design archetype that I knew I wanted to use: overalls. After doing the first sketch, I tried to work with more dynamic poses to help me keep the character's energetic nature in mind as I designed him. Despite being set on overalls, I did also give the stereotypical shirt half untucked look a try, but thought it made him look older than I was aiming for, so quickly went back to the overalls. Although I did keep the shirt from this design. When I originally pictured the character in my head, he was wearing long overalls, so I was surprised that I actually preferred the look of the overall shorts. As for the rest of the character's look, I referred back to Zinnia and Moss to make sure they would look related, but I made his face slightly more rounded than theirs to show that he's a kid. I had originally thought that this character would be Button's age and friend, but as the design developed, I began to feel that he was either the same age as Bobbin, or that his age was between the other two. Because of this, I began to see him as closer friends with Bobbin than I had before, and started developing how they might play off each other as characters. I thought since Bobbin was dressed for the rain, it would make sense to put some elements of that into this design, but in the opposite way to create contrast between the two. She has a raincoat on and is carrying an umbrella. He has his raincoat tied around his waist. She's wearing a scarf for warmth. He's wearing shorts. She is prepared for the weather. He was sent out of the house prepared, but has discarded it in favor of comfort. Most of the line work went smoothly, just a little bit of repositioning for the facial features, adjusting the curve of the sleeves, shirt, and the angle of the boots. All minor moments of experimentation and indecision. But when it came time to draw the hands, I hit a wall. I have found in the time that I've been working on improving my art that sometimes hands just come together first try, but other times I fight with them for what feels like half an hour and still don't like how they've turned out. Before I was actively trying to improve my art, I drew a lot of characters with hands in their pockets. But you can't improve something you never take the time to work on. So I've watched tutorials, I've used reference, both pictures and holding my own hand up in front of my face, and, most importantly, I've taken the time to try. I will admit I'm not really satisfied with how these hands turned out, but at least I tried, and they're significantly better than my hands used to be. For the extra poses, I wanted to highlight both his curiosity and his playfulness. The crouching pose shows that he can be still, since he has not startled the butterfly that he is admiring. And the jumping in the mud puddle pose shows that he's not afraid to get dirty. When I did these sketches, I thought that they both looked so cute that I was faced with a common art dilemma. How am I ever going to get the line art to look as good as this sketch? Sketches, due to their unfinished nature, are usually full of energy. Because the lines are incomplete, the brain is free to fill in the missing details in whatever way it thinks is best, or even in more than one way simultaneously. When you do the line art, you are setting those details in stone, and the removal of all the other possibilities can make the line art seem stiff and lifeless. I actually found it more difficult to line the extra poses than I did to line the main one. Apart from once again having hand difficulties, though, I ended up liking how they turned out. For the colors, I picked a color from the pinkish part of the stone and a color from the bluish part of the stone, and then just made those colors lighter or darker for contrast, depending on what felt better for the part of the outfit I was working on. Looking once again at Zinnia and Moss for family resemblance reference, I chose a green for the skin, eyes, and hair. I also wanted to incorporate a touch of green into the outfit, and the details on the overalls seemed like the best place for that, especially since the bib pocket is shaped like a leaf. And with that, our first batch of characters is complete. We have Button, his slightly older sister Bobbin, and their grandmother Grand Dot. We also have Zinnia, her teenage son Moss, and now her younger son Leaf. I can't wait to figure out what these characters are going to get up to and share it with you.